Welcome to Kingdom Mothers Rise Up, where I encourage and equip you to heal your heart and renew your mind so you can live the fully abundant life Jesus promised you. Let's go. It's time to move.
Welcome to this interview episode of the Kingdom Mothers Rise Up podcast. I'm honored today to have as my guest Rhiannon Helgeson. She's coming to us from England, so I love that technology can connect us across the world. And Rhiannon is a kingdom business coach who helps women break mindset and financial barriers so they can create a legacy for future generations. She's married with 2 children and, like I said, lives in England. So welcome, Rhiannon.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. I'm so excited to be a part of your podcast.
Why Kingdom Mothers Rise Up? Like, what excites you about that I want to be on this podcast?
Gosh, that is, this whole topic is something that is really close to my heart. I'm writing a book on this topic of like how women should really be able to step boldly and confidently into all that God has intended for them, whether that is, being a wife, whether it's being a mom, whether it's being a mom and a businesswoman, and whatever it is that God has for them. And it's really a journey that I had to take, and so I'm super passionate in my coaching business and just in general really supporting women and helping them see that those desires, those dreams that they have deep inside of them are there for a reason, and that they shouldn't be ashamed of them.
That's awesome. And like you said, it's kind of been part of your journey in building a business. But if I was to ask you, when is the time that God asked you to rise up? What comes to mind?
Yeah, so the first thing that comes to mind is it probably happened about maybe 14 years ago now, 13, 14 years ago. I had just gotten out of an abusive marriage. I was slowly coming back to church, slowly, igniting that relationship with God. And I remember being sat in a really old church, like old-fashioned wooden pews, and just smelled of polish. And I was listening to a guy talk about Gideon, and how Gideon is the least of his pretty useless tribe. And yet God chose him to really lead the way and, defeat the enemy. And I remember being sat there and my heart just pounding and knowing that God is calling me to something. And I felt at that point so broken, having, like I said, just got out of an abusive marriage, and really just struggling to find my feet again, realizing or trying to understand how, normal people go through life and, react to certain situations and things. So I remember thinking, gosh, the Lord wants to use me, even though I am so broken. I remember just knowing that I am being called to something big, but having no idea what that meant. And obviously since then I've been on this journey with the Lord. But that is the pivotal moment where I was like, okay, there is a calling on my life. I'm here for a reason.
And so that was before your kids and before your business. So how has having kids and business fit into that as you're on this journey to discover okay, I'm called to something. I'm called to rise up to whatever this is God is saying. Has it felt like kids are a distraction from that? Are kids part of that?
Yes and yes. So I think for me, right at the very beginning, all I ever wanted to be was a wife and a mother. And so it was a really confusing time for me when I'd become a wife and a mother, and yet I still had this yearning desire for more. And for me, that was business. And so it was there was an internal battle for me of okay, I know that I am first and foremost a wife and a mother, and yet this this burden for business and burden for, really wanting to get out there and lift up others, just as I had been lifted up. And so God took me on a journey of like, okay, it's perfectly safe and it's perfectly good for you to want to be in business. And you can do that at the same time as raising a family and being a wife. But it was a struggle for me. And I remember, like, I've always looked up to the Proverbs 31 woman. And I know some people either love her or hate her, right? But I've always, admired her and wanted to be her. And it was almost as if I had been blinded to the fact that she's a businesswoman. And it talks about how she, sewed clothes and sold them, and she invested in a vineyard and all these things. And one day that was just like opened up for me, and I was like, oh, wait a second, this wife and mother that I'd been, putting on a pedestal, she was actually a businesswoman too. So like then it was like, okay, Lord, I see what you're doing there.
Yeah. So what struggles have you had being a mom and trying to answer this call to business and make an impact?
I think obviously the first thing that comes to mind is that mom guilt of, wanting to be present with my children, but also really wanting to work on my business. Like, I love working, I love my business, I love serving my women that I help. And for me, that is exciting, and it's like, it's not a burden, and I enjoy it. And so it's difficult, or it has been difficult in the past for me to let go of that whilst I'm with my children and be present and being able to, really have that quality time with them instead of, maybe sitting them in front of a puzzle whilst I'm on my phone, like answering text messages or making a post for social media or whatever. So I think that balance of like being present with my kids when I'm with them and being present in my business when I'm doing that, because the opposite would happen. So if I was in my business, I'd be like enjoying it, but like, oh, my kids are not with me and I'm missing out on precious moments. And so it's just that whole whirlwind of being able to be present where I am at.
And what has helped you with that?
A couple of things. I think one is, I truly believe that God has given me everything that I need in order to complete what he is asking me to do. So that includes time, and that includes patience, and that includes, being able to really be present when I need to be. And the more practical, not that that's not practical, but like a practical thing that I do is I write a to-do list of like, okay, these are the things that I want to get done today. And then I will set a time to do them. So sometimes that's early in the morning. Sometimes I'm just going to be like, okay, I'm going to take kids out in the morning, and then maybe in the afternoon I'll have like a block of an hour. Sometimes it's not even that long. Sometimes it's 15 minutes. And I'm like, okay, I'm going to do this. And that really helps me to be like, okay, I'm making forward movement. I'm able to be present with my kids because I know that I have set aside time to really complete the jobs that I need to do. So yeah, that's what I do.
And I love that you said the first thing is believing that God has given you everything you need.
Yeah.
So that you can make the list and you can make the schedule and you can trust that it's going to be okay because you're believing that he has everything that you need. Definitely. And like, was that a journey to get to that place where you could trust that he was enough?
Oh, definitely. There have been many times where I have been so overwhelmed and just really struggling to really do anything well, and just being so consumed of it all being on like my shoulders, and it's my responsibility to be a good mom. It's my responsibility to be a business owner. And of course, we do have responsibility in that, but it is through God's grace and his strength that we are able to be a good mom, that I am able to, steward the business that he's given me well. That was definitely a journey, and that was not something that came overnight, at least not for me. I took me a while. I was a bit slow in learning it, but now I'm like, when I do feel like those overwhelmed moments are, you can sense it, can't you, as a mom? There's like one more thing and I'm just gonna explode. Now when I feel those moments are coming on, I go, okay, Lord, I need to come back to you. And it's always me going back to the Lord. That's what, takes away the stress, the overwhelm. It reminds me to let go of the things that are out of my control and to just trust in the fact that, maybe although I had business things planned, maybe I just need to sit with my kids and give them extra hugs, or maybe my kids are fine, I can actually go and do a bit more work. So it's just having that trust, and it's just having that ability to stop, take it back to Jesus and just be like, Lord, what's happening? Can you take all this overwhelm? And where have I picked up stuff that isn't what I'm supposed to be dealing with now? And where do I need to let go of some stuff?
Yeah, I love it. I was going to ask you, like, what does that look like? And then you just said, like, this is what it looks like.
Yeah.
And go sit with the Lord and ask him some questions and expect him to answer you, give you the insight that you need. And like, how did you learn that?
We'll be right back.
Art Doodling with Jesus is a membership where I do a live workshop once a month where we explore an emotion or an idea through doodling, which is just a simple creative process. I encourage you to draw with permanent markers and paint with watercolor paint to create space to listen to your emotions, the thoughts that are in your head, and what the Lord wants to say to you. And it's not about creating art. It is not about being good at it. It's about practicing the pause to go, what am I really feeling? What do I really think? What do I really believe on this particular topic? And giving you tools that you can use for yourself and with your kids to continue to explore your emotions outside of the workshops. You can come back and do workshops again and again if you're in the membership, but you also can take the practice that I'm teaching you and do it on your own for what's going on in your life. If you're interested in joining me, there's a link in the description.
I learned that as part of my coaching qualification. Actually, we learned to journal with Jesus, and that is just the whole me writing out a question, and whatever comes to mind, I just write that out and trust that that is his voice. And that is what he has for me. And there's a guy that I follow, his name's Dub Alexander, and he is always teaching people about the prophetic and helping people to learn to listen to God's voice. And one of the things that he said sticks with me. He said, a lot of people are like, is it my voice? Is it the devil's voice? Is it God's voice? And he said, whenever you're listening for God, whenever you're asking him a question, and you hear something, instead of thinking, is that me or God? Ask yourself the question, or tell yourself, it could be me, but it's probably God. And that just shifted things for me. And that has helped me to trust way more that small voice inside of me is actually just God talking to me.
Yeah. And I love that, because if we're asking God to talk to us and believe that he does, because, he says, I'm the good shepherd, my sheep know my voice, so he must be talking, and trust that instead of like, well, I don't know, like maybe I asked God a question and the devil is answering me.
Yeah.
Well, why would we think that? And like, why would we give credit that the enemy could come in and speak to us when we've asked God to? Like, why would he not hold that space for us?
Exactly.
So just, again, that trusting, and like, of course the enemy is trying to talk to us, but it's going to come with peace, or without peace, it's going to come with strife and confusion and stuff.
Accusation.
So yes, that accusation. So yeah, I love that, really practical, and just wanted to talk about that because I didn't grow up Like I asked God questions all the time, but there was no expectation that he was going to answer me. Like, if anything, I could hope to open my Bible and find a verse that answered my question, like that was what I grew up with. So having learned later in life that like, no, a good father has conversations with his kids. So when I ask him a question, I can expect him to answer me, and it makes such a difference.
Yes, because he really is that good, kind, loving Heavenly Father, and a good father wants to talk to his children. It's just, you can't not talk to someone that you love, can you?
Yeah, I love that it's so simple. So what else do you think would be helpful for moms who feel that like there's something more? I know there's something more, but they're maybe still in that phase of like, but I don't know what it is, or I feel like I'm just plain drowning in being a mom. So how could I do more?
I think it's good just to try to carve out some time to just sit and be still. And I know that is really difficult, especially with little ones. My children are 6 and 3, so it's a little bit more easier now. But still finding those little pockets of just silence where you can just sit and be still, and just let the Lord like minister to you. Because honestly, I think we get in the habit of like rushing, like when we wake up, we have to rush to get ready, we have to rush to go to this and do that and everything. We never allow ourselves just to be still and to just hear what God is saying, or to just feel what we want, even to really feel our emotions and what it is that we want. So I just would encourage everyone to just take, even if it's 5 minutes of pure nothingness, and don't go in with questions, don't go in with expectations, just to be still and see what comes to you. Because there is a way. If there is a desire there, if there is a dream, if there is this, like, there must be something more. Even if it's just, maybe it's not going into business, maybe it's just there must be more peace that is able to come into my household. There must be more joy. God will give it to you. God will give you the answer for what it is that you're looking for. He knows what you're looking for, even if you don't.
Yeah, and I was just talking to a friend who the Lord had given her an idea for a book, and she's been questioning and wrestling, like, who am I to write? And I can't write, and all of those doubts and things that come up. And then he was reminding her, like, I gave you that desire in the first place, so you could give it back to me. And so often, I think, especially as moms, the world tells us, like, if you want anything beyond being a mom, then you're being selfish. And like, no, God put that in you on purpose so you could give it back to him.
I love that. It reminded me of, I remember when I was, I'm in business, right? So I want to make money. I was telling the Lord, like, okay, no, I wasn't telling him, I was asking him, I was like, Lord, I could really do with like one client so that I could have this amount of money, so that I could do this and this and this. And he's like, Rhiannon, he calls me precious daughter. That's how he talks to me. He's like, precious daughter, why are you telling me this? He's like, why are you trying to explain your desire for wanting to make money? He's like, I've already given it to you. I've given you that desire, and I've made you capable of creating money. So why are you sat here asking for it? And I was just like, whoa, okay.
Yeah, like, okay, so what should I be asking right now?
Yeah.
Because that seemed really obvious to me, but I clearly was wrong. So
yes.
That's so beautiful. I love that, getting to that place where you can have that relationship and that connection and hear his responses, and it just changes so much. And do you find that something that you bring into your mothering?
Yes, definitely, because I know that if I wasn't listening to God about my children, I would just be a crazy, angry mom. Because I I like things done in a certain way. Like in my life, I'm a very tidy person. I do this, this, and this. My kids are not wired that way. So I really do have to be like, okay, Lord, what are my son's strengths? What is it that I need to like pull out of him? What do I need to affirm him in? And the same with my daughter. Like, what is it that I need to be affirming in her that maybe isn't something that I personally value or think is awesome? Like my son, just as an example, is he just loves things and he gets really sentimental about his things. Me, I am not sentimental when it comes to things at all. Like I just don't care. And so God's been really taking me on a journey of like, listen, you have to be patient with him. He sees beauty in things that I've created and you have to just accept that. And I'm like, okay. But until then, I was like, it's a rock. Just put it back in the garden, you know? And my son's like, but it's so beautiful. And I'm like, okay, Lord, I need your help.
Mm-hmm. Teaching them to hear his voice, is that something that you're doing? And how are you doing that?
Yeah. I think I actually did you do a course on this one time?
Mm-hmm.
I remember talking to you about it. But yeah, I haven't done it in a while actually. I need to start doing it again. But with my son, he's 6. We do journaling together. So we will he will draw a picture and explain to me how God has spoken to him through that picture. Which I just love. Like I'm a visual person as well, and he obviously is. So he will draw like a picture of a duck and like explain that God is, I don't know, I can't remember what it was now, but it was a duck and it was really meaningful to him and it was beautiful. And it's just, picking up on things that they say and just saying, oh, what made you say that, or where did that thought come from? And he will often say, oh, God told me. And so it's just kind of it's so subtle, you can easily miss it when kids say those kinds of things. And I'm just always asking the Lord to open my ears and to make me aware and give me wisdom so that I can pick up on those little things and just encourage it.
Yeah, it's definitely was my heart when I learned that I could have conversations with God and that he wanted to have conversations with me of like, okay, I'm teaching my kids right now because if this can be normal for them, that they understand that God is talking to them and the enemy is talking to them and they can choose who they listen to and all of that of like, if that could just be normal instead of trying to learn it in my 30s, like that would just be awesome. And 40s and from Deuteronomy, I don't remember now if it's Deuteronomy 6 or Deuteronomy 9, verses 6 through 9, where he says, like, take my principles and talk to your children about them when you walk by the way and when you rise up and when, it's like just as part of life. Like it's not this separate segment that we spend time with God in this block and this block. No, he's walking with us all day. And, as we do that with our kids and like you said, just catching those things of like, oh, was that something God said to you? Was that something the enemy is telling you?
Yes. Yeah, definitely.
Just making it part of life. It's beautiful. So it's been great to visit with you today, Rhiannon. And I know you have a free gift for the listeners. So can you tell us about that?
Yeah, it's been great talking with you as well. So I have a morning anchoring routine, which I find incredible. And it's the 4 really simple steps to help you get focused and get confident for the day. And it really includes getting present with God, asking him questions and having him help you to just direct your path and steps throughout the day. So that is my free gift to everyone who wants it.
All right. So I will put the link for that in the show notes. And then is there any parting thoughts or encouragement that you want to leave us with today?
I think I just want to encourage every woman to really listen to those desires, those thoughts that just won't go away. And if there is something that is there, to really pay attention, because that is God's nudging you to actually take action upon it, whether you know how to do it or not. Just like Gideon, he had no idea how he, the weakest in his, pretty awful tribe, had no idea how he would lead in victory. But God showed him how to do it. And I just want to encourage you that God will show you how to do it.
Yeah, that's beautiful. Thank you so much for joining me today. Remember that your healing heals generations, and we'll see you in the next episode.
Thank you for listening to today's episode of the Kingdom Mothers Rise Up podcast. I'm blessed to have you here. If you'd like to continue the conversation, you can join us in the Kingdom Mothers Rise Up Facebook community. When you're ready for more support, I have the Heart Doodling with Jesus monthly membership, periodic group coaching, and one-on-one personalized coaching as well. Thank you so much for being here, and we'll see you next time.